Good evening and welcome to our second edition of Am Abel Foundation's Medicine Makers, where if your destination is a career in medicine, we can show you how to get there. I'm your host, Dr. Toyin Adeyemi, and I'm joined today by Dr. Sweetie Conway, who is my co-host and also happens to be my guest today on this edition of Medicine Makers.
Good evening, Doc.
And welcome, Dr. Conway.
Thank you.
Dr. Conway today is going to talk to us about her inspiration behind founding Am Abel Foundation and really share the passionate and powerful movement that is changing the narrative in our communities. Very exciting show ahead. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you that you can catch us on Cable Access Network Channel 21, or you can stream us live on cantv.org, cantv.org/. hot link, and you can also call in to 312-738-1060. Would also like you to face stream and live us on Facebook, on Instagram, and just stream this live link so we can have people join in. And please don't forget to call in to 312-738-1060 with questions. The Am Abel Foundation is, the programming is filled with amazing programming for any student in the Chicago area who's really passionate about becoming a doctor or dreams about becoming a physician and really is looking to bring true healing, compassion, and equity to medicine.
Yes.
So we're looking at the whole person,
Absolutely.
becoming a physician and really working on compassion, true healing, and equity.
Amen.
So amazing programming by Dr. Conway. So again, we've talked about how you can reach us and how you can live stream us. And we're going to jump into the program.
Sure.
And before Dr. Conway starts to speak, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome her. She is a friend and colleague for over 20 years.
Yes.
And last week she was in Cuba with our students, and
Yes.
so she's here, and I'm honored to present her. Now, these few words are going to not do enough justice to my friend and colleague here, but for those of you who don't know, Dr. Conway is a board-certified physician in internal medicine and pediatrics. She completed her medical school at Rush Medical College here in Chicago and completed her training in internal medicine and pediatrics at the University of Illinois here at Chicago. She's been teaching medicine and taking care of patients for over 20 years and has taught in so many academic institutions and hospitals here in Chicago and in the Midwest. I mean, an amazing woman. And in addition to that, she has always been putting the heart of the Chicago children in the community. She currently works at the Veterans Hospital, the Heinz VA, and she teaches medical students and residents at Loyola Hospital. Dr. Conway was born and raised here in Chicago, the Englewood community on the south side of Chicago, and it is my honor and privilege to have you as my guest today.
And it is my honor to be here with Dr. Toyin, who is indeed one of my friends from many, many years back. She was my chief resident, so she was my boss. So this is, it's a natural fit. We've been friends for a while, for a long time. So it's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. So my first question, and for our audience, is for you to really tell us the mission. What is the mission of Am Abel Foundation?
You know, it's a complex mission, but it's a simple mission at the same time. The mission of Am Abel Foundation is to raise up our next generation of healthcare heroes. Plain and simple. Easier said, harder to do, but that is certainly what the mission is. It's also to reintroduce the concept of physicians as healers. How about that? You know, basically our communities are in a state of emergency. Our healthcare system is in a state of emergency. Even us as doctors sometimes don't want to go to the doctor because things are not as they should be. And really it is my firm belief that our youth and our young adults are going to be the ones that are going to bail us out. So for me, they're not Generation X, they are Generation Next. Wow. And truly, they're all we got. You know, and my feeling is that, you know, we have to, even though they are the ones that's going to do it, we're the ones that have to prepare them and show them what it is that needs to be done and how it needs to be done. As many of you have probably heard out there in the community, we are heading towards a healthcare crisis in the year 2025 and up to 2030. Our baby boomers, which I always tell my kids I'm not exactly a baby boomer. I do not meet the definition. They disagree with me on that. But at any rate, the baby boomers are advancing in their age, and they are becoming an elderly population all at once. And when you really think about it, our communities are going to be hardest hit because of that. Why? It's a simple numbers game. We make up about 14% as people of color specifically, and the Latino population is very similar, but we make up about 14% of the population and only 4% of the physicians. And it is a known fact that physicians of color tend to go back into their communities. But if we don't have them, who would do the healing? Jesse Jackson used to make a statement, and this is a paraphrase, but it was something like this, and it resonates with me. Who's going to save us, from us, for us, but us? So I really feel that the mission of Am Abel Foundation is preparing that generation of young people who are going to go out into the community and make it a better place as community leaders and as healthcare advocates.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Couldn't have said it any better, and we didn't try last week. We told the audience that we needed to hear from you. You've used words like preparing our successors in medicine, healthcare heroes, giving back to the community. Those are really important things, and bridging the gap to raise that next set of physicians as healers. Very valid, very valid points. So kind of leading on to that is my next question. You've talked to us about the mission, the inspiration behind starting the Am Abel Foundation. What was your inspiration?
You know, it's a funny thing. It was Mother's Day, one Mother's Day, and actually my nephew was killed on that day. And it was a very impactful day because I was studying for boards. One of those things that never goes away. We're constantly studying as doctors. And I was studying for my recertification boards. And I remember my son was actually driving a bunch of little kids that stayed over our house, family members, and taking them back home. And at some point, he realized that he didn't have his license, so he had to return all the way back home because he was going to journey on to college that day. And he didn't want to be caught driving without his license. And in the time that it took for him to return and come back home and pick up his license, before he made it to the house that he was going to, there was a shootout there. And we actually lost, we lost one of our cousins, 15 years old, to Southside gun violence. I have a video clip, tells a little bit about our story, and we'll talk about it again moving after that.
Okay.
Because I'm able to blaze through every door of opportunity, but leave a wedge in the door so that others may follow. Because I am able. I will take responsibility for my own destination and uplift my brothers who seek to do the same. Because I am able. I will see my brothers as a reflection of myself. Because I am able. So I'm Dr. Lamenta Conway, and the Am Abel Foundation was really born out of tragedy. One of our younger cousins, we kind of think of him as a nephew because he's so much younger, had been shot and killed. He was 15 years old due to Southside violence. And one of our favorite cousins who was there when that happened, he was 14 at the time. And he actually came to live with us. And in that defining moment, it changed everything for him. And he decided that he was no longer going to walk on, kind of straddle the fence with his life. Even though he was always a really good kid, he realized that he had to kind of declare who he was going to be. And he was actually doing well. He was getting straight A's in school. He was playing on a football team, and he was thinking about how he would become a recruit for high school. And one day he was walking home, and he became the incidental or coincidental unintentional victim of also Chicago Southside violence, and he was shot in his back and lungs and was in the ICU for a long time, and he ultimately ended up paralyzed. And I began to wonder, what can we do to make a difference in the community. And what really came to me is that I felt like we had to increase our mentoring. I learned something from my young cousin, Devontae, and what he told me was that a lot of times the boys would view other boys as ops, almost like they weren't real people. And they depersonalized them, called them ops. And immediately that came to my mind that about the biblical story of Cain and Abel, and how God confronted Cain and asked him, where's your brother, already knowing the answer to the question before he asked him, and he indicated, I'm not my brother's keeper. And it came to me that yes, we are our brother's keeper, and some would go as far as to say that we are also our brother. And with that came the notion or the idea of the I Am Abel Foundation.
Wow.
The Urban Bridges Medical Mentoring Program is a three-pronged program.
Okay. Wow, what a powerful video. And I've heard that story and I've seen that video, and every time the compassion and the truth behind that resonates. So when you watch that clip, what resonates with you the most?
I think it is the powerless feelings that we in our communities feel, because I not only lost a cousin to gun violence who was only 15 years old, who was a part of our life in a very, engaged way since he was a little kid. I remember when I first recognized the fact that I didn't think we would be able to help him. And then to be closer to the other little young boy and to believe that he was going to make it, and then to see him become paralyzed almost 6 months exactly to the day. It is a feeling of being powerless. But it was at that moment, especially after I talked to my younger cousin, that I realized that we, and even me as a physician, has to find a way. It is important to recognize the power of one. And I'm so glad that I decided not to fall victim to the feeling of being a victim and feeling powerless, and really deciding that there is power in one. And I truly believe, I think what resonates most with me is the fact that physicians actually have another calling. And as we look at, and I know you can attest to this in your work in infectious disease, we're not just doctors. And I think the concept that I'm trying to introduce to our young people is that they too are not just going to be delivering health care, but they're going to be delivering hope. The physician of the coming century needs to be a physician healer, a community advocate, a community leader. Why? Because you have to see it to be it. So when they go back into their communities, how do we shape the next generation? The other kids in that community need to see physicians as leaders. And I think that's what resonates most with me. The fact that we're not really helpless, that we as one person can actually change an entire community. And I think that's what I come away with when I see that, because I've actually seen it unveil.
Correct.
In front of us.
Wow, and those are powerful statements, and especially because this I Am Abel Foundation is 3.5 years in terms of, and you have been able to accomplish a lot.
And I would say,
what motivates you? What motivates you? What keeps you going as a full-time job? You're working, you're doing all this stuff to keep striving for excellence for that next generation. What motivates you? What gives you strength? How do you get people to come on board with you?
The enthusiasm of the kids. When I see their reactions, for example, when we're in Cuba, and I see the hopefulness and how they're listening and learning about other systems and how that they can actually integrate those and apply those types of, at least those concepts or those ideas into medicine here one day. I look at it when I see the smiles on their face, when they're learning something new. And it just brings back hope, because I know that these kids are actually the hope of our communities. You know, when I think about how I was growing up in Inglewood, I always tell people that I felt like nobody was checking for us. You know, we didn't have, I'm dating myself a little bit, but we didn't have any magnet schools at first. They did come along while I was in high school, but they weren't there at first. And so And even now that we have these magnet schools, everyone puts all their interest and their emphasis and their resources. But who goes back to Inglewood, where I came from? And that's what I am so inspired. If you look at the demographics of the young people in our community, people don't know that we have this great richness that's in our communities. And our goal at I Am Abel Foundation is to tap into that, certainly.
Wow. I see that we have a caller, and okay, pass it through.
Hi, my name is Angel.
Hi, Angel.
First, I have a comment. I believe most patients feel that medicine has really become impersonal to the point that I actually don't even want to go to the doctor anymore. I think that we're all hoping to have better experiences as patients and to encounter physicians that truly care about us and don't just treat us as a number. Dr. Conway, you mentioned that your mission is to develop heroes in healthcare and physicians who are healers. What are some of the ways you help develop the consciousness of the inner city youth who are in your program?
Thank you for that question, Angel. I think it's two things. First of all, we have to say it. And I think that if you've ever gone, well, you haven't gone to our meetings, but if you've ever gone to any of our meetings, one of the things that's actually a part of the I Am Able creed is never walk through a door of opportunity without leaving a wedge for others to follow. That has been so ingrained into their psyche that if I say never walk through a door of opportunity, they follow without leaving a wedge for others to follow. It's kind of my pet peeve. I feel like, first of all, there's not that many physicians of color. We talked about the stats. And then those of us who have been blessed to basically live our childhood dream and to accomplish a career choice that some people just dream of. You know, and when they get this opportunity, many times they take their riches or they take their accomplishments and they just drive right into their home, pull the garage door down into another day. And our young people know that we push this into their heads constantly, that you are responsible for your brother. One of the ways that we also do that is we expect our students to help one another. So if they have skills, like if they're able to tutor, we expect them to pay it forward in their community. We are actually developing a buddy program for younger kids, and we are expecting them to volunteer their services. So we have to teach them to give. Many of our programs too that they are exposed to, they're constantly being exposed to opportunities of giving and giving. So the goal is to reinforce the notion of giving. The second thing I think is we actually have to model giving. One of the things that I teach the Loyola Medical students and residents, and I always tell them on day one, when you set the expectations, when you walk in there, you have to set the expectations so nobody's surprised, nobody's mad when it's all over. This is how we do it. And one of the things, because I'm a pretty laid back person, but the one thing I tell them on day one of the rotation, if you want to do well in the rotation, from my perspective, I said I have one requirement, and that is number one, and it's actually 2, 3, and everything else. It really is. You are not more important than the patient. Putting the patient as the center and their family as their supporting structure, I think that is truly the key. The other thing that I teach my medical students and residents, and this actually flows down to our mentees as well, is I teach them, when you're going in to see a patient, never stand up over them. Pull up a chair and talk to them.
At eye level.
Yeah, meet them at eye level and have a conversation. Be human. And then I often tell them, I said, I know a lot of the young people that I teach haven't dealt and confronted sickness yet. So maybe they don't know what it's like to take care of a sick person or be involved with the care. But I always remind them, how would you want someone to take care of your mama? And that's what I usually I tell them. So basically, it's about modeling it, and it's also about instructing it.
Right. Those are really excellent points, and thank you, caller, because one of the things you brought up much earlier is that we're not just in this organization, not just training the future doctors. You're looking to raise the next set of healthcare heroes.
Yes.
People who are truly committed and passionate to bringing true healing, compassion, and equity to medicine.
Yes,
and those are
equity.
things that you have to be intentional about.
You have
and
to.
The organization does do that. We have a few minutes before we wrap up, but I would like you to really talk, if you can, for a few minutes about the Urban Bridges Medical Mentoring Program, which is something that you develop with your team that really is that physician pipeline, and how you get the mentoring done.
Super excited to talk about the Urban Bridges Medical Mentoring because truly, Dr. Toya, it is the core of our program. It is the flagship of I Am Abel Foundation. We do many things, as you know. We have the delegation that goes to Cuba at least once a year, Haiti, the Costa Rica program, but the Urban Bridges Medical Mentoring Program is where we teach medicine. It has all kinds of aspects and layers, and as we go through the season, we will be able to peel back some of those layers and talk specifically about everything that Urban Bridges does. But if we were to give the summary of how Urban Bridges Medical Mentoring works, it has Saturday Morning Professor. That is the curriculum. And, basically at the end, it's kind of exciting coming up in March. I think it's March 16th. We're going to actually, our students will have the opportunity while they're in the hospital where we actually do our sessions, they will have the opportunity to be doctors while the doctors become patients. And they will be tested with the curriculum that they've been learning all year. What have they been learning? How to take a clinical history. Why are these things important? Because we have to create legacy. Legacy by proxy. When you look at all other types of, other communities, many other communities, there, generations of doctors. There's generations of physicians, and we don't have that. So, as a general rule, so our goal is to create that experience for students, so that when they do get the opportunity to shadow their mentors, they will have more comfort, and they will actually be comfortable clinically and know what they're talking about. Sure, they got to learn real medicine, and they have to learn the pathophysiology, but this is a fantastic first step. So the first thing is Saturday Morning Professor. The other thing that I think is really critical, and I say this all the time, you have to see it to be it. Period. That's for everyone. So therefore, our young people are partnered one-to-one with their own physician mentors, for which you are one of our physician mentors. I am one of the physician mentors as well. And I just want to celebrate our physician mentors who are all across the city of Chicago, because without them, this is not even possible. Each one has to reach one. Each one has to teach one. So our physician mentors are incredible. To that end, actually, we are preparing for a mentoring reception where we actually recruiting. So if you are a doctor and you are listening, February the 9th, we'll give you more details at Connections in Bronzeville. You'll have an opportunity to come out and learn more about what it takes to become a physician mentor. These kids don't need a whole lot, Dr. Toya. They just need a little bit of your time, a little bit of your energy, and a whole bunch of your heart.
And the two students we had last week, Shania and Kaylin, they raved about the program, their mentors, and the opportunities that you've opened up to them. Very impressive.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
They did.
And I think the other thing that is super important is academic advising. I think all of us as people of color have had the experience, I mean, like 99%. If you talk to people of color, their experiences in college have been less than favorable. People have not really invested in their career choices, making sure that they were on track, actually even believe that they could be what they wanted to be. So we do some very solid academic advising that goes all the way down to the high school level. And we actually include the parents in that as well.
Well, Dr. Conway, it's been fantastic talking to you.
Well, thank you.
We're almost out of time. And I want to remind our audience to please go on iamabel.org, iamabel.org, to get more programming about all the programs we have to offer. Last week we had the website showing you, and to know that the applications are still open for this next class of mentors, mentees and mentors through March 23rd. So again, we talked about the application process. We recruit every year, and really encourage you to go on iamabel.org amabel.org. You can follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, and really just follow along. And really looking forward to many more episodes. This
Yes.
is episode 2 of 12, and we have many more things, including, I think, next week. What are we going to be talking
Next
about?
week we're going to be talking about Cuba.
Awesome.
So don't you dare miss it. We're going to bring the kids and they're going to share their experience.
All right. So, thank you.
It's been a pleasure, my sister.
It has been. Thank you.